welcome back to Final Fantasy Tactics, the Ivalice Chronicles. Oh boy, I'm glad. I did a podcast last night, as I record this, with Jesse Cox and Garrett and Kyle of Grinding Gear to talk about Final Fantasy 14. But before we got into that, we talked a little bit about Final Fantasy. And I was so happy that Jesse, who has already played this game before in the past when he was younger, was like, I tried Tactics. It battered me into the floor, and I just left it there. He gave me all the confidence in the world, because sometimes when we're, like, getting hammered, absolutely smashed to pieces, I'm like, am I missing something? It's usually the point in games where I'm like, okay, we need to reflect on what the game is asking us. And there's some obvious ones, like just grind levels, just be stronger than the enemy. In which case, why are you making it hard in the first place is kind of my feeling on it. Is like, I turned it to hard mode, but I grinded the crap out of the game doing easier battles and did a lot of the cheese that is available in this game. So I just overpowered everything anyway. So I beat it, but like, you know, I kind of beat an easier version of the hard mode, if that makes sense. And I try not to grind because, one, I don't like it, and two, for that reason. Like, we're just nullifying the difficulty. But also, the game expects that of you. Like, it really does. Like, there's no getting away from that. Like, it feels like Tactician mode, which we're playing on, is designed with the things in mind of, like, you're probably going to get yourself really strong really early. Not only are you going to have prior game knowledge, so you understand, like, oh, a summoner's on the field. We're screwed. That needs to die, like, now, really quick. Or you need to, like, drain its mana or nullify it in some way, fast, or it's going to just murder you into the floor. And you understand, like, how the diagonals and the cardinals work, and elevation and all those kinds of things. So I felt happy about that, because this has been rough. Holy rough. But we're turning a corner. And that's very noticeable, is we're turning a corner. I'm still being told relentlessly through a few decisions I'm going to explain today, is like, this is just not going to be doable, really, but the way you're playing it. So we'll see. We might hit that wall. Haven't hit it yet. In fact, we've done more of the actual game in terms of like story and moving it forward in the last day than we did in the first three. So what changed? I'm going to get to the story in a little minute. What changed? Knowledge, obviously, rising. Every battle is an education. You're learning something. There's something that happens. You're like, oh, I didn't realize that's how that worked. But more importantly, fleshing the characters out. That is what this game is, and it is a joy. It is an absolute joy. The possibilities of combinations that you can make with your characters, with your team, is not endless, but close to. Like, close to endless. There are definitely synergies you want to be going for that make a lot of sense at different points in the game. So, for example, you start to out-level the natural potions you get. So you start with potion, and then it goes to high potion and next potion. But very quickly, you'll realize, oh, my normal potion, which heals like 30, is just not cutting it anymore versus enemies that hit me for like 110. So we need to be able to use better potions. And so you would probably lean towards your healer at that point. But, like, your healer is also kind of falling behind. So what is the solution here? Well, actually, it's the chemist. Because you can't just... You can buy the potions. You can buy whatever potions you want from the get-go of the game, pretty much. But you guys don't know how to use them. And so you'll be like, okay, I need to switch in a chemist. And the chemist is going to be able to throw potions. That's great, but also passively, if you've got a chemist on your team, is going to teach the other people how to use potions as well. So then becomes a lot of weaving in different jobs that maybe are not the idyllic setup, like what you would want for, like, this is my A team, is I want like a black mage, and I want a white mage, and I want an archer or a ranger, and I want 2 melee guys, and that's my balanced combo I would want for most fights. No, you're going to have to sub somebody in. In particular, this dawns to me for the thief job. Once you unlock the thief job, you want the thief job because the thief teaches you and your units a bunch of really cool stuff. Namely, movement 2 and jump 2, which are very, very important. You want to be able to get around the battlefield, especially on tactician mode, because they will position in really intricate ways the AI to almost be unhittable in a lot of scenarios without putting you in direct danger on your next turn. And so you want a thief, but the problem is the thief doesn't do any damage. They use daggers. They don't do any damage. That doesn't mean they can't do any damage. That's not what it means. What it means is the build, like the base thief build, won't do any damage. But you can build something like a monk thief that is a thief but has also been a monk in the past, and the monk has learnt to use its fists to do extreme damage. And being a monk, you can learn that passive and pass that passive off to everybody else. So now you've got like a bare-knuckled thief that's going around and just absolutely smashing people, but you won't have that early game because that requires the setup of mixing units and things like that. So at this point in the game, and I think we're about 20 hours in, so it took a while to get there, this is starting to happen for me. We're starting to flesh things out. So where did we get to? Well, yesterday I took it upon myself to... I realized that I had been sort of passing abilities to the rest of the team. So I've had like a thief passing movement out. I'd had chemists passing potions out. I'd had squires who were passing out things like throw stone. This is actually ridiculously important. I couldn't believe how important this turns out to be, because the way the game works is your characters will not earn experience if they do not do some kind of action every turn. They only earn experience when they take part in an action that actually does something. So on occasion, you'll be like, I don't need to do anything, but I'm 1 less health, so I'm going to use a potion. Why? Just to gain experience. If I move and don't take an action, that's no good. But you can find certain abilities that do an action regardless of what you're doing. So this would be like Chakra from the Monk, which is like just a heal and a mana restore. Throwing a stone, even though it does very little damage, it is an action that does something. Or self buffs. Things like Focus that buff your melee. Things like that. So I started to flesh those out onto the team. But I realized I'd kind of been doing that for a while, and there wasn't anything more for me to get on various characters. Like, okay, and there's this really cool min-maxi point where you look at your array of characters and you're like, I don't know where I'm going with this character now, because I've leveled it in a certain job. I've got what I need from that job. I'm now sort of wasting the points it's earning because the rest of my characters don't need anything from it either. So where are we going next? Now, this is where the job trees come in. To unlock the later jobs, which do more stuff, you need trained fighters in various different affinities, right? And so if you want to unlock, say, the Dragoon, you're going to need somebody who's been a squire and then has learnt to be an archer and then leveled up to, like, say, level 5 in archery and then has become a thief and has got like a level and then got to like level 6 in thief. Then they can learn to be a dragoon. And the higher up you go, the more intricate this system becomes. So I had the entire bottom row grayed out for me. I couldn't choose what they were. I unlocked dragoon. I was like, okay, I'm going to get a dragoon. And I changed my archer, who was eventually my thief, into the dragoon, because that was the first one I got. Now, it will tell you which jobs you need to find out what this thing is. And so I was like, okay, my 2 melee dudes, I'm going to make whatever these 2 characters are. I don't know what they are. I don't know what jobs they're going to be, but I'm going to find out what they are. And so it was like, okay, this person needs to have been... I think one of them was like, needs to have been a thief, which by proxy means they had to have been an archer, but also needs to have been a geomancer, and also needs to have been a monk and something else. And I think, like, needs to have been a dragoon at some point. Now, the cool thing is, if your characters have sort of learned even a little bit of other things, so they've unlocked various jobs, you will passively earn experience and levels in those other jobs. And so some of them you can skip. But you've got to work through the process, which means the guy who's been melee for the entire fight now needs to become an archer for a little while. So I did that. I did that whole process, and it was really cool. This was the first time I quote-unquote farmed, but we just did some little battles, and I unlocked samurai and ninja. And then realized, oh, my ninja, I want to use dual-wield swords, but I need to go back to being a knight to learn how to equip swords, because you got to learn your sword play. So I unlocked the ninja and was like, crap, we've got to change it back to a knight, do some battles with the knight, then come back and be a ninja. Now we can equip swords. And that's the process I've gone through, which has led me to my current team, which is really strong. I like my team. I've got a dragoon who also uses items. So my dragoon can jump around the field and throw potions at people. Really good. That's Ziggs. And then we've got Ramza, who is now our samurai, who's using the big katana, but that system works weird, so we might end up changing him. But he's a samurai who learned this really good counter, and I'm going to teach that counter to everybody else, while also being a monk. So he's a samurai monk who's able to, like, heal himself and regenerate mana for the group and things like that. Really solid. I now got a ninja, Nahe. Nahe is now our ninja, who is also... What else is he? I think he might be a monk as well, because Chakra is ridiculously strong so far. And then we've got Miss Cass, who's our summoner, because summoner does crazy damage. I'm working towards Bahamut, but I also taught her half mana. So she could do tons and tons of casts now. So every spell costs half mana. Taught her that, and she's passing that to everyone else. And then I've got Lion, who is going to be our white mage. Currently, probably going to be black mage into white mage, because I would like to unlock the summoner ability for him to learn half mana later on. That kind of thing going on. And then I probably want to bring a chemist back in. There's currently 3 jobs, I think, that are still locked to me, but I'm not super interested in those. Those are the caster things. Maybe at some point I'll unlock those, because you have to learn how to be like an orator who whispers in people's ears. There's like mind control and debuffs and questions their beliefs, which lowers magic damage. And then I don't know where else it goes, but they need to be like time mage and summoner and orator to unlock whatever the latest, and geomancer to lock on what's going on later on. But that's all super fun for me. Like, despite how hard it is, that is super, super fun. So I've got this crew together that's starting to come together and making the game feel nicer to play, along with the knowledge. What's going on in the story? I have no idea. This story, going into this, a lot of people like the story is so good. And I was like really excited for it. But it does not land for me at all. Like, the base of the story, I get. It's basically rich versus poor. People who are born as the lower borns versus the higher borns, and how much better they think they are and trying to control everything. But there's more characters in this story than Game of Thrones, and they all have the most ridiculous names. Lal, Darg, Lalbag, Dalbag, the Duke de Von... And it just goes on and on and on, all from different royal houses throughout the land, and they're all intermingled, and there's all sorts of intricate plots that are weaving together, and there's people who are like double secret agents working on one half to bring people in, and there's executions and murder. There's a lot of stuff going on. That's a little difficult to follow, especially because my focus mentally is on playing the game, and they will be yapping and yapping and yapping and yapping, and I'll be like... 2 summoners on the field, eh? 2 summoners on the field. Okay, where do I need to position for those? And they'll be yapping and yapping and yapping. But I would also say it's not due to lack of interest. Part of it is that the amount of dialogue during battles is definitely one of the biggest flaws of this game, in my opinion. It's an obnoxious amount of dialogue that takes place during the story battles. You don't have it when you're out, like, doing random encounters, sure. But you will have... one move, and then they will talk for 2 to 3 minutes sometimes, just talking. Then you will get another move, and then once you attack or something, it kicks off another dialogue point, which could be another minute or 2. It's a lot. Like, and it's certainly because you're doing it on hard mode, you're going to maybe fail and have to redo it. You can fast forward, but it's still fast forward. It takes ages to get this through. It's like, it's so much dialogue, and it drowns you out, like, of paying attention, because you're like, I just want to get to the fight. I just want to play the game. I wish they'd... a lot of it is fluff noise as well. And that's kind of the problem. It's very flowery, very, very big dialogue, but it's not really going anywhere. It's a bit of a shame. I do want to talk about the best battle I had, though, which was the first... Although we've had boss battles, quote-unquote, throughout the game regularly with named characters... This was the first boss battle. We got some aura sight going, and the Duke swallowed it up and became a giant mega beast. I have not really enjoyed a battle like this in a video game in a while. This was really fun. It did a couple of things that were really interesting. One was like hiding the amount of HP and mana the enemy had, so you had no idea when you were going to kill it. Apparently this did become available to me at some point in the fight, and I just didn't notice. But it starts off with just question mark, so you don't know how much health it's got. And it was hard. Really hard. Like, this actually took some thinking. So what this boss did is it would do one of 2 things, potentially 3. It did have a melee, but it was rare. One of 2 things each turn. It would either spam debuffs at you, which included Doom, which could hit 4 of your 5 characters in a single turn and just kill them outright if you didn't have Doom removal. Sleep. It would do all this in 1 turn. It would just debuff the entire team with either Sleep or Doom. The second thing it would do with Bioga, which was just... It hit so many targets. Now, part of that was my misplay, as some of you who've played this game will know, because it made sense to me to like stack the team, get shell up, try and keep them alive, and then focus on damage, right? And so I needed to buff the team. Incorrect. Don't do that. Incorrect. As it turned out, these spells all have an AoE. It follows the rules of the game. It's large, but it is an AoE that you can get around. Like, Bioga is huge. Bioga can hit massive. But I was like, okay, we tried, like, I think a quad monk setup at one point. So I was like, I wonder if I could just zerg this down and just beat him to the ground. But the room layout is very small, so that was very difficult to do. I was like, right. What if we equip the oak staffs? They can remove Doom. If you bonk people on the head with it, it can remove Doom. I didn't have any Doom prevention accessories at this point, so I was like, that didn't work. We could learn Reflect, but we couldn't afford it. Like, maybe I can reflect the Bioga back onto him and he, like, kills himself. That would be cool, but couldn't afford that either. So there was all these choices running through my head. Eventually, it came down to, like, okay, I'm going to try what seems antithetical to how we'd work this, is just have everybody all spread out really far away from each other. So I changed someone to an archer, and this is the cool job system I explained earlier coming in. Change someone to an archer, change my white mage to be on her own, put the summoner like over here. The melee I can't do anything about. They have to be close, but he tends not to target them with these spells. And that really worked and created this environment where the Bioga could only hit one target. And he then actually dead stopped doing the debuffs. And I was like, oh, I wonder if it can only do the debuffs if it hits a minimum of 3 or 4 targets. That's the only time he'll spam Doom. It's literally an anti-clump mechanic. The rest of it is Bioga and melee, and he's going to, like, move around the room. Now, he can one-shot everybody, but if you're spread out, he's only going to one-shot one person, and then get the res off, get them up. And then it dawned on me, like, HP doesn't actually matter in this fight. You can keep your units really low, because he's going to one-shot them regardless, pretty much. So, running, if I had to do this fight again, I wouldn't even bring a healer. Like, it would be pointless. I would just bring DPS, because it can't be out-healed anyway. Like, if you really want, you're on 1 HP after a Bioga, because you could survive that, it's like, I'll just potion. But Bioga, like, one-shot my summoner regardless, even when I changed her armor. So this fight turned into a really fun thing, and then it dies, and you didn't know it was going to die, because you had no idea how much health it had left. And you were like, oh, I did it! And it was so good. It was so fun to be like, oh, we did it! We got through it! Like, yeah, dude, I thought I was going to be stuck here forever, because I couldn't go back, because the fight before this was what was called a castle siege, where it's actually one fight immediately followed by another one, and you can't go back to the world map to go and buy new resources, to farm points. Can't do that without having to do the first fight again. And the pre-fight to this boss fight, I think it took me about 45 minutes. It was really hard. Really, really hard. It's an ambush where your team is separated, and you get absolutely surrounded. And they have, I think, 3 knights, 2 archers, and a summoner, I think they had, or 2 summoners, versus 4 of your units. So a lot of units to kill. They will kill one of your units on the opening turn before you do anything. And then that's when you start the fight. And it got really complicated with, like, trying to throw a speed enhance on one person to try and move the turn order up. And the carry was charm. Literally, like, charming one of the units to fight for me. They were my source of damage. Was their own units killing each other, me just trying to position and move around. It took about 45 minutes, while then keeping the other team alive. That was keep Ramza alive while he's fighting the boss, which self-healed. So it even got to the point where after 45 minutes, I killed all the units finally. I got through the gate. I had the whole team there. The boss, Gafgarian, could self-heal so much that 3 of my units attacking him wasn't out DPSing his own healing. Insanity. I had to go get a crystal from my summoner to, like, over-tip the scales so I could actually do the damage. Like, a crazy, crazy fight to get done. But so proud, but I'm not doing it again. Ain't no way I'm going to do that again. So I was like, look, dudes, I don't know whether we're hard stuck here on this boss or whatever, but I am not doing the first fight again. That's not happening. We're here. We've got to figure this out, and thankfully did it. But what a joy. What an absolute joy. Like, I'm loving having fun here. It's kind of funny. We're having that same thing we had with, like, Alatreon and other fights like this, where some people come in, like, first time. It's like, oh, he looks really angry and annoyed, and he's wiping. Because obviously the instinct of a lot of gamers is if you're wiping, he's go and farm. Especially if you played this game. You're like, I'll just go and farm and get your characters to have all the abilities. Like, why wouldn't you? Because you can do that from level 1, right? You could start the game and you could just farm the first level and have all the skill points and all the abilities and the classes unlocked. You could just do that from the very start of the game if you wanted to, before you even move forward with the story. Obviously, I've not done that. But yeah, people keep saying it's not going to be doable, and the reason for that is I've now started to get the unique units. Like Agrius and someone else has joined the team, and they have special jobs, which are genuinely probably much stronger than the base jobs that the game offers you. So, like, Agrius is a holy knight. I have another guy, I can't remember what, a machinist. I have a machinist on the team as well. I believe they also teach your team 2 jobs at once. But I'm a little sentimental. I like my team. I like the team that's got through this. I have connections and history and an affinity for, like, I know what Cass has been through. I know when Cass had to be a thief, how angry I felt that Cass was doing no damage, despite the fact that she's my summoner and caster and she's been decimating entire teams. And then finally getting her back. Like, all these little things that I've been through. Nahe as the knight, the tank knight. Ziggs, who had to tank 2 archers and a time mage at the top of a tower on her own, unable to kill anything, just spam healing herself, but it kept 3 of the units out of the fight while I dealt with the rest. All these moments are ones I'm connected to, and then these unique characters come in, and I'm like, I don't really want you. I like my team. This might come back and bite me in the ass. I don't know. But for now, I'm sticking with the OGs, man. I want to cross the finish line with those OGs, so I'll keep you up to date with where that goes, but that's where we're up to. Brutal game, man. Brutal. Bye-bye. Hello, ballers, and welcome to Final Fantasy Tactics, the Ivalice Chronicles, where I am up to Chapter 4 of 4, I believe, and I have a full day of progress. I smashed through so many things. I finished Chapter 2 and did Chapter 3 all in one day. It was a glorious mission of our guys being horrendously strong now. Not really, they get crushed, but still, they can kill things really quickly. The dual-wield ninjas are slicing people. Our summoner has got, like, Cyclops and Bahamut crushing and burning the world. And the story is developing in a way where both sides are getting at war. They're trying to manipulate, but it's all really about the crystals. And perhaps our wonderful sister Alma is the warrior of light, the chosen one. And now this seedy group of people have Falmov and Duke something who have claimed they're not human, who turn into beasts with the Aurasites, are now showing their heads, manipulating things from behind the scenes. Very Final Fantasy now. However, that is not what I want to talk about. No, this video is dedicated to decisions made a long time ago that resonate throughout the timeline, and good God almighty, I actually believe, I truly believe this, that tactician mode, but it's not about this, was not tested remotely thoroughly. Maybe they just checked it was kind of okay and then left it there. I think this feels a bit like a mode that was added for fun, which happened a lot back in the days. It happened a lot, is they added stuff that was like, oh, people want more stuff. People are going to want it super hard. Like Japan had harder versions of video games in lots of cases to make things tough. And the reason I say that is on multiple occasions, they have presented me a map with a quest that game overs you before you can play the game. Literally, the introduction of the map will, let's say it's a save this person mission, where the NPCs, seemingly by script, get all their goes first and will just finish the mission for you. They'll just kill the target in one hit because they do too much damage, which is a thing of tactician mode. And that is hilarious when it happens. It's really hilarious. And you kind of have to RNG that something will happen to prevent them from dying. They might evade, they might parry something, or they'll just seemingly get low rolls on what's going on the damage scaling, and they'll survive barely, and then you get a go to try and fix the situation. But it happens a lot in Tactician. Something will happen where your first turn just eradicates people. Okay, great. This is also something that's may be a case if they did test it, but they also fully expected you to be cheesing the hell out of the game at this point. If you're playing this mode. All right, let's get that out of the way. That happens. It's funny. But we can get past it with RNG. Okay. let's talk about the Ivalice boss fight, because, oh my god. Oh my god. Now, before we go balls deep into this, there's certain things that I am aware of now that are pretty going to... This is the kind of thing that inspires a little bit of smugness. It's like, well, I knew this thing, or I knew that, or I had done it in normal mode, so I already knew the answer to this question. But I know something really horrendous is coming when I have waves of people watching me play live and they start Pepe laughing. They're not spoiling it, but they'd just be like, ha 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 ha. And the Ivalice boss fight, I do believe it had a different name back in the day. They've changed a lot of the names to fit more modern FF canon. Was the point where a lot of people just couldn't get past. They just stopped playing the game at this point. I found this out afterwards. It's like, yeah, this is where a lot of players just stopped playing or waited for a magazine to come out, which would be more the case in the 90s, which told you how to beat this. Obviously, I didn't have any of those resources. What is this? Okay, so it's now a 3-stage castle siege, which means you can't go back to the map. You can't go and get more resources. You can't go and get more potions. You can't change any of your gear. You can't go and grind without restarting the whole thing. And the fights are generally pretty hard. So you're incentivized not to do that unless you're prepared to go through more, drag out some really long fights. Okay. We understand that. So the first fight, not too bad, honestly. Actually attacking the castle was not too bad. My characters are pretty spiffy right now. I have a couple of glass cannon characters. If they get to the enemy, they'll generally kill them in one turn, which is really cool. That'd be Nahe and Ramza are capable of doing that. However, if they get, like, double targeted or something like that, they're probably going to die. And also, there are many units now in Tactician that can just straight one-shot them. They have the best armor available, but they will straight one-shot them regardless of what's going on. They have, in fact, some of the enemies, not a lot, but some of the enemies now have actual one-shot moves that are designed to kill you. I think one of them was called, like, asphyxiation, which just didn't even have a damage limit on it. It just kills you if the enemy gets there. All right, whatever. So you get caught in a bit of a loop of rezzing people, and if you get bad rolls, like, I think at one point I had to res somebody, and I was stood next to them. And my res had a 68% chance, right? So we'll just call it 2/3 chance of resing them. And it failed 3 or 4 times in a row. Which is like, this way the dice roll, dude. It's XCOM, if it's not 100, it's basically 0. Okay, so the first fight wasn't too bad. So I wasn't in the position where I'm like, okay, redoing this would not be the end of the world. But I do like to be like, okay, let's push through this. I think that's pretty fun. But that wouldn't have mattered. Kind of. We then get to the Ivalice boss fight. Right. So what is it? Well, you place the 2 teams, and then it actually starts, and it's just a one-on-one duel. Okay. It's a one-on-one duel with Ramza versus Ivalice, or who will turn into Ivalice. In a very long room, a long, thin room. Now, here's the problem. He can kill you in 2 hits. And he has way, way more speed than you have. Which means he has 1 turn where he hits you. Then you get 1 turn. And then he gets 2 turns. Where he's going to hit you 3 times at that point. I was like, alright. So, what do we do here? How do we fix this? Because it was way overkill. So Chakra, which is the heal I was carrying on Ramza, wouldn't heal enough to survive anyway. And so I tried a number of different approaches, including just moving away to buy me time so he had to travel to me. So that would waste 1 of his 2 turns that was coming up. But even then, with the heal, we couldn't survive. And you couldn't move again because he would be able to reach you in that time. Because he gets 2 movement turns. He can cover a lot of the map in that space. Okay. So, maybe we could... He's only got like 300 HP. And I was like, maybe we can actually just kill him. If I get like 1 turn and then maybe somehow deflect something, blah, 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 we can hit him again and kill him. No. Couldn't do enough damage to that. All right, so then I started swapping armor around. So I could, like, boost my HP. I'll lower my damage, but I'll boost my HP, so maybe we can survive 3 hits. That was impossible. There was no way of surviving 3 hits. So I was like, okay, what do we do here? So then we started, like... The only process I had here was to start process of elimination. So... First of all, can we just remove his weapon? Like, because you can destroy the enemy's weapon, which dramatically reduces their damage. In some cases, there are many enemies at this stage of the game where you'll take their weapon away from them and you'll be like, haha, you have been nullified. And this works in like chapter 2, but now they punch you for like almost as much damage as they hit you for the weapon. And you're like, oh, okay. And that's when I noticed that this guy is pretty much immune to everything in the game. Which was a really weird situation for a tactical game, is just to create somebody who is immune to everything. So disabling his weapon, 0% chance. You can't possibly do it. It's not going to work. You can't destroy any of his armor. You can't destroy any of his weapons. You can't do that. So I was like, okay, that's not going to work. And we tried all variations of this. You could potentially rend his power. However, the ability to rend power had something stupid like a 25% chance, so 1 in 4. But if you can get behind him, that odds go up. But the enemy AI positions him in a way that you can never get behind him. That was really funny to find out. It's like the AI is programmed so you can never stand behind him. Will not work unless you can find some very tricky, after trying it for hours, way of moving him, and you do certain stuff with movement speed or movement distance that maybe you can do it. So it was like, okay, well, what about if we use a Dragoon? So we can jump off the field to avoid a hit and land him. Well, no, the AI always moves, so you can never land the jump. So it won't happen, and then he gets 2 turns and kills you anyway. Then it was like, okay, what if we tried doing mages? So what if we, like, poisoned him and tried to kite him around a little bit so the poison would tick on him? Nope, he's immune to poison as well. What if we tried disabling him, blinding him, doing something like that? Nope, immune to those things as well. So at this point, I'm going through every job variation I have a choice with, and he is literally immune to all of this stuff. So then it came down to, what about reducing the damage he does in some way with different armor combinations? What if we use more magic resist? Because it's like a holy weapon. Now, I'm going to point out here the chameleon robe. I didn't notice this. I had seen something in the store, I think a shield that absorbed holy damage because he hits you with this holy weapon. And the chameleon robe does stop him doing that, and I didn't notice that. So that's one solution you can come up with. However, what we noticed in tactician mode is if you do stuff like that, he, instead of hitting you for 137 and killing you in 2 hits, 170 something, it's some high value of damage, is that he will then hit you normally for like 110. So it was like, okay, like you can stop this, but you can't stop that. I think this is where a lot of people pointed out that in certain like speedrun modes, if you do it on easy or normal or something like that, this will make it so you can survive like 6 or 7 hits and just kill him. Like, it's not a problem, but it doesn't work in tactician. So I was like, okay. I did not try the chameleon robe. I just want to make that clear. Some of you are probably screaming, chameleon robe, it stops holy damage. But even if we'd done that, he would still have hit us and killed us, and before we could kill him, maybe. There might have been a chance, but I didn't try it. But so I'm cycling through everything. I was like, okay, we'll try like Mystic so we can do all the debuffs to him. Doesn't work. Completely immune, 0% chance. There's no way of doing that kind of stuff. So I was kind of lost. I was like, I was enjoying myself because it's a puzzle. I was like, there must be a gimmick in the room, right? That's the next thing. Is if he's immune to practically everything, and he can kill you so quickly, you can't get away from him in a normal fashion, there's got to be a gimmick to it. No, there's no gimmick. This is the fight. Which then led to, okay, I think we might have to go and reset, because one way I could solve this, not knowing about the chameleon robe, is auto potion with X potions. So I didn't have access to auto potion on Ramza, and so I was like, oh, auto potion would probably solve this, so I can just face tank him and auto potion and just kill him that way. That would have worked, I think, but I didn't have access to it. So I was like, okay, what is the plan here without going back? And I enjoy a puzzle. I enjoy this a lot. I wish I didn't. I wish I was smarter, or not smarter because I was aware of it, but less stubborn and just been like, oh, we should go back, go and get auto potion, would take 2 minutes, come back, reclear the first fight, and just smash it into the ground, whatever. But I refuse in many cases to believe that developers create a fight like this that's only solvable in a couple of ways. So it was like Chameleon Robe, which kind of maybe would have worked, but Auto Potion would have worked, and if you haven't got that, you're silly. Which is probably what they expected. But then I noticed something. I noticed that if I stacked all the movement distance abilities, I could, for 4 turns, keep away from him while only getting hit twice, which would leave me with 2 HP or something. That gave me some possibilities. And that's all I'm looking for is possibilities. I could do that with the Squire. So then what do I do? With the Squire gains bonus movement distance. So with the Squire and movement boots and movement +2, I could get far away enough that he had to chase me for a few turns. What can I do with this? That's the question. So I'm then going through the Squire stuff, and I'm like, okay. What we could do then is use something like Tailwind. Now, Tailwind is an interesting mechanic that I haven't talked about on the videos in Tactics. Is if you buff yourself by, like, buffing your physical damage, buffing your magic, buffing speed, things like that, it's permanent throughout the fight unless your character dies. Like, in the fight, gets KO'd. It stays with you. So I can buff my speed. Now, in theory, if I can buff my speed to the point that he's not getting 2 turns, every couple of turns he gets 2, then I can theoretically hit him from distance and move away far enough in order to not get hit and make him chase me before, and be out of range of being able to be hit. I also have to bear in mind he has Shockwave, which goes, I think for him, it's like 12 tiles. It's really far, but you can sort of offset yourself in various parts of the room so you're not in a perfectly straight line, because Shockwave works in a perfectly straight line. And then that occurred to me, is like, well, I can use Shockwave. If I go with Squire Monk, which gives me Chakra and Shockwave, I can hit him from quite far away and leave myself distance to move away. So then it became a game of cat and mouse. This got really tricky in the first 7 or 8 turns. I'm not joking. So the plan was, after so much trial and error here, is like if I move to one corner and I tailwind myself, that gives me another speed. Then he chases me, hits me again, and now I'm going to die. If I move then to the very furthest corner and tailwind again, he has to move to me because I've baited him to one corner, but he can't quite hit me there. That allows me to move up this outer edge of the room and heal, because he's going to get 2 turns then, heal just enough. But it wasn't quite there. It was just like 10 HP short. So then we're looking through, because there's an ability that I think monks get where they can heal while moving. Would have been perfect. Couldn't get it. But what we could get was regen. Regen I had ignored. I was aware of it. I had ignored because, frankly, things hit so hard that the heal from regen, which gives you like a bit of healing every turn you take, wouldn't really have been enough to survive the next hit anyway. So it would have been like, yeah, you healed, but it maybe 1 in 12 encounters it would have actually made a difference. But here, we're actually getting a couple of turns before he hits us again. It might be enough. It heals for like 45. Especially if on one of those turns we throw in a Chakra, which heals for about 70, it might tip us over the like 140 barrier to not die, unless he crits us. He can crit you for like 200 plus, then you're screwed. But this is a possibility. After an hour of trial and error, we found the exact 8 positions I needed to stand in to gain the advantage, where now it was 1 turn to 1, which then leads to, we want me to have 2 turns to his 1, which means spam more tailwind. Cut to circling the room 7 or 8 times, if not more, buffing speed endlessly onto Ramza over and over and over again, just kiting this guy around the room over and over again. And then at that point, I could start throwing in some shockwaves and chipping at him, because I now had 2 turns to his every one. How is a kid supposed to figure this out? I have no idea. And so I'm like, shockwave, move. It even got to the point where my health was now full, because occasionally I would intentionally take a hit to proc the regen and get more Tailwind up and shockwave him, and I was pretty comfy at this point. And then we finally did it. The cheering was insurmountable as we actually did this, and me fully expecting to be like, oh, cool, now we can save the game and do the final fight. No, that is phase 1. And then it did dawn on me midway through this. It's like, I chose 2 teams for this. There's a phase 2. And sure enough, there is. He turns into a massive beast and spawns 3 new enemies into the room. He becomes a summoner, and that summoner hits my characters so hard that they can't possibly survive unless I had like re-raised to let them die and be rezzed again. So I'm like, what do I do here? Now, thankfully, Ramza does retain the amount of speed I gave him. So Ramza still had lots of turns. So I was like, maybe I could just kill him here. But I don't know his HP. I don't have any idea how much health he's got. And then it turns out his ads can also one-clap you. And they all get a go in a row. They all get a go, and they have ridiculous range. They can hit you from all over the map. I was like, this can't be real, because they just one-shot everybody in the team besides Ramza, because I could keep him far away. Like, they have not infinite range. I can get him to the very furthest corners of the room where he survives, but they just one-shot the entire party pretty much. I managed to kill like one of them, but it was like, it's a wipe. We're going to wipe. After we did all this with the previous guy, we're going to die. And we did. And it wouldn't let us retry, which meant I had to do the phase 1 of the fight again. So I'm thinking, what do I do here? What do I do? And the only solution, actually, is the other Squire buff, Focus, which gives you more physical damage. And I'm like, what if I can buff myself with so much speed and so much focus that I just one-hit the boss? Which is so stupid. But it works. It works. So now, instead of kiting around the room 8 times, I did it like 15 or 16 times, if not more. To the point where my standard physical hit, I think, is like, I don't know, 12 or 8 or something like that. And my speed starts at like 7. By the time it came to, like, I think we've done enough, I had 30 speed and 30 physical damage bonus, if not more. Now, I didn't know the scaling of the game. So I'm like, I'm kind of just bored doing this. Let's just try it out. And so Belias human form is stood there. So I'm like, right, we're going. We've had enough. I walk up to him. My average damage when I hit something with Ramza is 70-something. And I was fists for this because I had to play the monk off-piece to do it. I punched him in the stomach for 661 damage. I just walked up and Balboa'd him right in the face. And he just died. I was like, oh my god. It cuts to phase 2. I now have 3 turns over everybody else. And I walk up to the giant sloth beast and just kill it. And win the fight. Hilarious. Unreal. I just punched it straight in its juicy boobs and down it goes. I'm like, well, I have to say, this is probably, even at this age, with the experience I have, the stupidest boss fight I've ever done in my life. And I'm very confused. If we get a little analytical on this thing. Get a little analytical. Why? Why make in a game that is about making customizable characters that can utilize, that can be like a ninja that's supported by mage spells and debuffs and things like that? Why would you make a fight that's limited and you can then customize your team, right? To create a nice rounded team that can adapt to situations and do things. Why on earth would you create a boss fight that is immune to nearly every job in the game in one way or another? Like, just doesn't like the abilities of your characters just don't function anymore. Like, why? That's really silly, especially when they're going to lock you into playing one character. You can only do this as Ramza. That in of itself is a really stupid decision. It's just really dumb, especially when you're locked into a one-on-one scenario. And it really feels like, okay, the idea is that you would fail here, ha ha ha, you'll go back and start farming and farming and farming. And if that's the case, sure. But to end up in this scenario was frankly hilarious. And really made me just laugh throughout the whole thing. I thought it was really funny. But then it turns out that isn't the end. There's another fight after this, and this was another one where it was a protect Ratha, and she died immediately and just game overed me. Like, I couldn't take a single turn. It was really funny. It was just, after what we'd just been through, which was the last hour and a half of dealing with this boss, to then walk into a scenario where you just lost before you could, before like the dialogue was playing and she died. I was like, okay. Eventually RNG'd that, and then that turned into another funny thing, is like they're all targeting her. You have one turn with your characters who are really far away. They're at the bottom of a cathedral. And the enemy is casting Ultima, which will just kill her regardless of what you do. And you just have to solve it in some way. And what is the solution? I don't know. I've done it. I can tell you how it happened. But how else you're supposed to do this, I have no idea. Because only Ramza is in range of hitting this target. Your casters can't get up there. Even my Dragoon can't jump to... While it can target it, it doesn't happen before Ultima goes off. She doesn't heal herself. She doesn't attempt to get away. She doesn't move near your healer. She'll just stand still and be ready to get ultimate in the face while she's already on like 20% HP. She gets a turn, but she just goes for the attack. Okay, sure. How did we solve this? I think on the third go, I managed to get Ramza near the enemy, and all I could do was try and disable this or something like that. But she has the enemy you're fighting has a lot of HP. It's like 400 plus. So I got to half HP, and my hope was to try and maybe get an archer or a summoner or something with more speed. I was like, should I tailwind somebody? No. The solution is the one attack that Ratha has is completely RNG. I wish I was joking. I'm not. It's like an AoE spell that randomly hits tiles. And she'd done this in the last try, and it just hit nothing. But in this try, it hit the caster that was casting Ultima twice or three times and killed her. You win. Just pure dice roll. I'll take it. I'll take it. I'm fine with it. I'll take it. But watching it play, I was like, oh, because I think my reactions there, if you play the clip, it's just like, oh, okay, we win then. And I didn't even know we'd won because there's two other enemies on the field, but that's the end of the fight. They just like go, oh, okay, you killed one of us. We're out of here. Bye. And I was like, what is this? Like, such crazy decisions made here. But what if it's still fun and enjoyable? It very much is. I'm not frustrated in any way. I'm really not. I'm just like, this is crazy. Wild. And we've got one more chapter to go. I don't even know what stories I'll have for you tomorrow. Given what we've seen so far, I have no idea. But what a joy. Well worth checking out. But if you are going to play Tactician mode, it's worth probably reading ahead of things you could do. Bye, guys.